Hey everyone, welcome into Unit 6, Day 3 notes. Today we're going to focus on graphing absolute value equations. Our goal today is that students will be able to graph absolute value equations by first identifying the vertex and slope, and then we're going to graph it, and then we want to do that with 80% accuracy. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is our absolute value equation written in standard form. And when it's written in the standard form, that's going to help us graph. So we have standard form is as follows. Y equals A times the absolute value of x minus h, close the absolute value, plus k. So now we're going to pick key pieces of information out of standard form, and we're going to use that to get key information to then help us graph. So the vertex is the first thing we're going to talk about. Now, just a quick overview of the vertex. When we look at an absolute value graph, it's going to be shaped like a V. The vertex is that coordinate or that point there and the point there. So the vertex is either going to be, in this graph, it's the lowest point on the graph. In this graph, it's the highest point. So that's what the vertex is. We're going to first look for the vertex and plot that point. So the way we find the vertex is we look at h. We are going to find and write down in a coordinate pair the opposite of whatever h is. And then our y value is going to be whatever our value for k is. We've worked with this opposite situation before when we worked with point slope form in the past. Okay. The next thing we're going to look for is whatever is attached or being multiplied with the absolute value bars, which is a. We identify that as letter A, and that is our slope. Okay? So we're going to keep that information in mind as we move forward and talk about the steps of graphing the absolute value equations. Step 1. Identify the vertex and plot the point. So we're going to identify the opposite of h and k, and put that point on the graph. Step 2, we're going to use the slope to plot points on both sides of the vertex. After we do that, we're going to connect points to make a V shape. If our graph is not looking like a V, then something's up. We did something wrong because absolute value graphs are V-shaped. One other set of information to consider is that if we take a look at the slope or the value for A, and it is positive, then the graph will open up. If we take a look at the slope or the value of A, and it is negative, the graph will open down. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as we do our first example. Number 1, we have y equals negative, and then remember, there's not a number next to it, but it's an imaginary 1. So negative 1 times the absolute value of x plus 4 minus 1. And I'm going to go ahead and jot down our standard form so we can get a clearer picture of what's going on here. So for our vertex, we are looking for the opposite of h. Now h, if we look up into our equation, is positive 4. We want the opposite of that, so we're jotting down negative 4. Then for k, we just want whatever our value for k is, which in this case is negative 1. Then to identify the slope, it is whatever our value for a is, which in this case is negative 1. And then which way is our graph going to open? Before we even graph it, well, what we just talked about, right? If the slope is negative, the graph will open facing down. And now that we have all the information, we're going to go ahead and graph. So step 1 is we are plotting the vertex. So we go left 4 and down 1. Left 4 and down 1. That is our vertex. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our slope. So our slope of -1 can be -1 over 1. So we're going to go down 1 to the right 1. And now, because it's going to be a V-shaped graph, we're going to go down 1 again, but then we're going to go left 1. And that's going to help us get our V shape, right? It needs to be symmetrical. So you take your straight edge or your student ID, back to talking about that, and we connect the dots. Connect our coordinates. And there we have it. That is our first graphed absolute value equation. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at problem number 2. So we're going to identify the vertex, which is the opposite of whatever h is. So we see -2 there. The opposite would be +2. And then whatever we have for k is -1. Our slope, there's no number in front of the absolute value, but remember it's an imaginary 1. It's not imaginary, it's just invisible, right? We're not writing it there. And then because our slope is positive, the graph will be opening facing up. So let's go ahead and graph the plot the vertex, which is to the right 2 and down 1. Our slope is 1, which is 1 over 1. So we go up 1 to the right 1. And then we're going to go up 1, left 1 to create that V shape that we are talking about. Oops. Go ahead, take your student ID or your straight edge, and we are going to connect our coordinates to get our V shape. And notice how I'm extending my lines all the way to the ends of the graph, and then I'm including arrows because the data continues to go forever, but we are just limited by the space we have on our paper/graph. All right, let's go ahead to number 4. Get into this routine. We are going to put the opposite of whatever h is. So that's a +3, -3 is the opposite. Then we're going to go ahead and put whatever our value for k is, which is 4. We have our slope is -2, and because the slope is negative, it's going to open facing down. First step, plot the vertex. We go left 3 and up 4. And now we're going to go ahead and plot our slope, which is -2 over 1. So we go down 2 to the right 1. And to complete that V shape, we're going to go down 2 and then left 1. Right? It has to be symmetrical. It's a V-shaped graph. And now take our student IDs or a straight edge, and we go ahead and we draw on our lines. Don't forget your arrows. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 5. Now this one, we're looking for our h value, but there's nothing in there for h, right? We have our x, and normally our h is to the right of our x value, but there's nothing there. So if there's nothing there, then our h value is 0. But we do have our k value, which is 2. And then we have our slope is -1/2. Because it's negative, it should open facing down. So our vertex over 0, up 2. We're going to go down 1 to the right 2. down 1 to the left 2 to complete that V shape. Take your student ID or straight edge and draw on your lines with arrows. And there we have it. All right, let's do one more. Number 8. In this one, again, there is no value for h. So again, it is 0. And then there is no value for k, which means it's also 0. And then our slope is a positive 2. And it's positive, so it's going to open up. So we have 0, 0 as our vertex, is 2 over 1 for our slope. So we go up 2 to the right 1. And then to complete that V shape, we go up 2 to the left 1. Take our student ID or straight edge, and we connect the coordinates. And there we have it. All right, go ahead, take a few minutes to do the problems we did not do, come back and check your answers. All right, see you in a few. All right, welcome back. Let's take a look at number 3. So we have our h, or the value for h, for our x value for our vertex, I should say, is -2 in here, but we do the opposite, so it becomes a positive 2. Then k just stays exactly as it is, which is -4. And then our slope is 3, or 3 over 1. So we plot our vertex. It's going to be up because the value of our slope is positive. All right, let's go ahead. Take a look at number 6. There is a negative sign out in front or attached to the absolute value, which means our slope is -1. Our vertex, right? If there's nothing in the absolute value bars along with x, then our value for h is just 0. And then our value for k is just whatever's on the outside, which is +2 or a positive 2. And our slope is negative, so the graph will be opening down. Number 7. The value for h is the opposite of -3, which is +3. And then there's nothing on the outside here for k, so it's just 0. And then we have our slope is +1. Positive means our graph will open up. And last but not least, we have number 9. The opposite of a positive 1 is -1. So our value for h, for our vertex, the opposite of h is -1. Again, there is nothing on the outside here, so it becomes 0. And then our slope is 1/2. It's positive, so our graph will be opening up. Okay, that's it for today. I hope this wasn't too bad for y'all. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to your teacher. Otherwise, have a great day. Peace out.